Reminds me of when you got a green marker as a kid in elementary school and you're like, and it's from like the big bag of markers and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot that this one is the one that's like almost dried out and there's like a fresh green out there and you wish you got the fresh green. And I feel like I got the marker that was dried out with this shade from Natasha Denona. Hey y'all, welcome to Clove Room. Welcome to Clovemas, the 6th day of Clovemas, and welcome to a pretty experimental video for me. In this video, I'll be building my own Alanis Morissette inspired palette, what I like to call the Jagged Little Palette. But perhaps the most exciting aspect about this video is that it is a collab with one of my best beauty friends, one of my dear friends, Ivy of Face Forward fame. I love and adore Ivy. I love and adore Ivy. This is my face telling you that. I love and adore Ivy. She is one of my favorite people. The reasons I love her. She is one of my favorite YouTubers, even if she wasn't my friend. She has such a calming voice, such a beautiful, authentic presence on screen, such amazing opinions and perspectives on things. I'm not just saying that because we usually agree on things, but maybe I am. And I know so many of y'all are huge Face Forward fans, just as I am. But if you are not subscribed to her channel, if you love relaxing content, if you love chatting with a friend, especially if you love this type of video, video is very much more in her wheelhouse. I had an idea. So previously, I should add, Ivy and I have DM'd about how much we love Alanis Morissette on Instagram. And we've just talked about how much we adore her artistry and her music and how seen and happy it makes us feel. So when I was putting together my video list for Clovemas, I sort of late in the process was like, I have really been connecting with Alanis Morissette's music lately. And I want to maybe branch out with my content and do a build your own palette based on Alanis Morissette's music. And after I realized I wanted to do that, I was like, oh, I have to do that with Ivy because we have chatted so much about it. And I know this is like the type of video that she would just excel in. And again, she has a lot more single shades than I do. These represent all of the single shades that I have that are like magnetic and housed in palettes. Please give this video a like. It helps me a lot in the wild west of the YouTube algorithm. And go watch Ivy's video either before or after this. If you're coming from Ivy's video, hi, hands. I feel like Teresa's dead. Hands. Hi. I do a lot of conscious consumerism content that centers around the beauty world and some of the pitfalls of overspending and unethical marketing. And I also like to talk a lot about my gender identity and how it intersects with the experience of beauty and makeup. So if you think you'll enjoy that, please subscribe. But I do feel very lucky and privileged that you came here from Ivy's channel. That is very kind, and I know you're a lovely person because Ivy is the loveliest person and only has the best company. All right, so Alanis Morissette, my beloved Alanis Morissette. I wasn't quite, a teenager or anything while Jagged Little Pill was taking the nation by storm. But I was a teenager who loved Kelly Clarkson. And Kelly Clarkson is still the first artist I ever stand, just an artist I absolutely love and adore. And my dad is very, very into music. He loves music. And he had stacks and stacks of CDs in his office when I was growing up. And I don't think my dad always understood what I was going through as a kid who was trans, as a kid who was queer. Oh, okay, I'm now glad this isn't on camera. But he did understand that I really loved music. My dad's still alive, by the way. I'm just really emotional right now. Okay. And he would always like to point things out to me. And we still text a lot about music because it's something that brings us together. And when I was a kid, I don't know, I just think I'm emotional because I'm really grateful, especially this time of year, to have parents who really supported me. All right, and I think I'm past the crying. So Alanis Morissette came out with an album in 2008, I believe, called Flavors of Entanglement, which was sort of like a bit of a comeback record. Flavors of Entanglement is pretty much a breakup album, and it's more almost like adult, contemporary, experimental pop-esque album. And my dad was like, I know how much you love Kelly, and I know how much you love just like this type of pop rock music. I think you should give this a listen, because I think you would like Alanis Morissette, and you should listen to Jagged Little Pill, which you have the CD of. He's like, there's a song called Thank You I think you should listen to. There's just, you know, he pointed me in her direction. And I really loved the Flavors of Entanglement album. I remember he bought it on CD, of course downloaded it to my iPod. There's a song called Underneath on it that I've always loved. I've recently revisited the album due to some life circumstances. And I've just revisited Alanis' music because Alanis is unabashedly confusing, long-winded, and messy. And I say that all as such a compliment because that's why I love her music. I love that she just is who she is. She's a woman, and she has a lot of conflicting feelings, and she has toxic feelings. And there's just, you know, she's like almost like pop psychologist-esque with some of her music, like Thank You, which is one of my absolute favorite songs by her, which is just a song about just unabashed gratitude and thankfulness. It's a song that makes me very emotional. It's one of my go-to cry in the car songs, along with That I Would Be Good. That I Would Be Good, if you need a good shower cry song, is just exquisite. And I will also say, I will link a playlist below that I've made called Alanis Flow that I have had on shuffle a lot lately, because I've just been feeling a lot of things, both good and bad. If you have always loved Alanis, or if you haven't even listened to Jagged Little Pill, I mean, first of all, I would say listen to Jagged Little Pill all the way through, because that's like her classic, iconic, a giant slab of limestone in the pop culture pantheon album. And again, I just want to, I guess I'm going to, I mean, obviously this is a collab with Face Forward, and I love you, Ivy, but I also want to dedicate this video to my dad, because, again, he's alive and well. I talked to him a lot. Just really grateful for his love and for giving me the space to like a bunch of music that I think would have really freaked other dads out if they're identified as a boy at that point ever was really into. And all he ever did was love me, and I love you, Dad. Just feeling like a lot of gratitude for that in this moment. And I feel like Alanis would want me to kind of cry through it and feel that gratitude. Okay, now we're gonna actually get into the palette. So I have a lot of viseart palettes here. Actually, this one, the Koish palette, was a gift from my dear friend Ivy. Isn't that nice? And then I have a couple of ColourPops, and then I have the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. This is all I have for single shadows in my collection. So some colors that I want to incorporate in this palette, or just some ideas I want to incorporate in this palette. Grunge. Jagged Little Pill was very much inspired by the grunge of the 90s and is sort of seen as this post-grunge pop rock classic, which it is. I mean, I would say if you were to describe that album type to somebody, to like a big music person, they'd be like, you want to listen to Jagged Little Pill, don't you? So I really want some grungy shades in here, which I think I actually have a lot of good ones, a lot of candidates for that. I also want to play off the colors of Jagged Little Pill, the album cover, because you kind of have to. There's a red, a blue, a green, so I want to sort of be on the lookout for those types of shades. And then I also want to use Flavors of Entanglement, of course, as an inspiration too, since, as I said, that album means a lot to me. That album is more earthy toned. The cover is actually pretty reminiscent of Jagged Little Pill, which I find interesting, because it is sort of like a more mature, I've grown up, but men still suck version of Jagged Little Pill. And I want to also play on the sort of like mucky, earthy, caught in between warm and cool, mid-neutral tones of Flavors of Entanglement. I don't have a size for this palette, really. I have an empty magnetic palette that I think I actually technically decluttered in my declutter, but I still have it in a box, so I'm going to go get that when I've built out this palette and put it in there. But I don't have a huge preference on if it's like super large or small. We'll see how it turns out, I think. But let's go ahead and get started. And I kind of want to start with my ColourPop So Jaded palette. So right away, I was looking at it as I was talking, and I think the shade Tiger Eye has to go in. Because it is this really... It does have some warmth in it, but it reminds me a lot of the cover of Flavors of Entanglement. So I think this bronze is definitely going to have to go in. And then also from this palette, Stoned is such a great grungy shade, and I think definitely needs to be in the palette. I will say I'm probably going to do... And I'll probably do like a pretty big edit and then winnow down as we go. What else from this one? I mean, Sapphire is such a great mucky, dark, jagged little pill blue. That's gotta go. Onyx, this like sparkly blue black. That's definitely something I want. I'm gonna put Diamond in here. I think this formula is actually the Super Shock formula, and this actually mimics a very special sort of indie-like effect. It's very like sheer glittery topper. It's not like the most brilliant one I've ever used, but it's one of the only ones I have as a single, so I really want that in there. I think this shade, Amarantine, is maybe my Orchid color, because I mentioned I really want to use Flavors of Entanglement, but especially Orchid, the song, is such an inspirational song for me. So I'm going to pull that one. I think I want to pull Smoky Quartz. I don't know if I'm going to use it yet, but I just want it in case I need something that's like a silver. What else? Anything else from this palette? I think I'm going to pull Emerald. I don't know if I'll end up using it, but I like that it's giving us that brilliant green from Jagged Little Pill album cover. I think same with Garnet. I think I'm going to pull this one, this burgundy sort of maroon, because that's giving me Jagged Little Pill album cover, but grunge. And I don't think I need anything else from this palette. I was maybe thinking this brilliant teal shade. Because it is sort of giving me 90s Jagged Little Pill. It's just a bit too bright. It seems like it has too much white in it. So I think I'm not going to do that. I've got out the ColourPop Limoncello palette. I don't know if there's any of these I want to use. Semifredo is just like a good color to potentially have, because it's just a really kind of neutral brown with like just a hint of red in it that I think could be a good shade, like a practical shade to have in this palette. I don't think I need the Grotto because I have Garnet from the So Jaded palette, and that I think is more in vibe with what I'm going for. I'm going to pull La Festa, this really bright blue. It might be too bright for what we end up going with, but I still want it as an option. It might get cut later on, but I think I'm going to pull those two. Next, let's do my viseart. I don't think I want to pull anything from the lavender one, as much as I love lavender. And Alanis has had some purple moments. She had her greatest hits, I believe, is like a really bright purple cover. So I could put this darker purple in, but I don't think I want to do that. And then I have the rose and the lila palette. I think I do want to put this silvery quartz, although I have this one, this one from ColourPop's a little brighter. So I think I'm going to put this in the edit, make it cut. And I think I do want this sort of orchid-y. This one's like more purple orchid. Oh, this one's more purple, sort of cool toned orchid than the other one I pulled, but I think this could be a good option. One, just to have in there, but to also be my orchid-like color. I think I'm good with the quads. And from my larger Viseart palettes, I definitely want a black. I feel like I talk about this a lot, but having a black matte in a palette is just, I think a duh. I think it makes everything a lot easier. I'm also going to put this gray in there because it just makes smoky looks really easy, or really light wings easy. I do have Stoned from the So Jaded, but I think these both will deserve to be in there, especially since it's 90s grunge realness. Let's see. Other practical shades. Am I going to put the white in there? I'm going to put the white in there just because it is a good shade to have. And I've been going actually more for like matte white inner corner lately, and that I've done it once, and that's a lot for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this white in there. And then from my Koyish palette, I mean, this has to go in there. This is like my favorite shade probably in Koyish. It's like a really classical, like classic blue, red, brown, shifty shade. This screams Alanis Morissette to me in post-90s grunge. So that absolutely has to go. Let's see. I almost want to be brave and bold and put this teal in. There's something Alanis about this to me. There's something Jagged Little Pale and Femme about this. So I want this to go in. And then, let me see, is there anything else? Part of me just, I want to put a couple of more of these shades in here, these like shifty shades. This one's like a peachy gold. I just want to put them in the edit. I want to put them in the rough edit and see what happens. This one's like a pinky white duochrome. And then I'm going to put this green in too. Because it's like although I have this, but we can maybe play around with that. Right, now my Natasha Denona Yucca palette. I think I definitely want to put some of these really shiny, oh my god, Elysian, I think. I'm sorry if I'm not saying that correctly, Colin, if you're watching this. Colin actually knows how to say all these words, I don't. I may just pull most of these sparkly shades, because these are the most special sparkly shades I have in magnetic singles in my collection. So I'm gonna pull Maquia, Plantasia for sure, just because that's a favorite shade. I don't know if it'll make it in the final one, but I'm just gonna go ahead and pull these. Any of the mattes? I haven't loved the matte tones in this for my skin tone and preferences lately. I think I want to pull Willow, because that's kind of gives me 90s green. It may be a little too, it may not be the right tone, but I'm gonna pull it just so we have it. I'm also gonna pull this grungy olive. I think that'll be good. And I think that's it for Yucca. So I think I got all my palettes. I'm looking over everything, seeing if I want to put anything else in. Okay, this is kind of veering into purple comfort zone, but Alexandrite has just enough blue in it. And it really does remind me of Alanis Morissette. So I think I want to pull this one in. And I think I'm going to call it that for the rough edit. All right, I certainly have a lot of shades. Let's count them. I have 28 shades, which is much too many. I'm going to challenge myself to get this down to a 15 pan. I'm going to try to get it down to a 15 pan. And how are we going to do that? I think I'm going to organize these a little bit more by sort of finish and what they're doing in the palette. So I think first I'm gonna swatch all 4 of these Yucca shades that I pulled, the really sparkly formula, because I have not played with this palette in a while and I need to remind myself what these are bringing to the table in terms of tone. So I think I'm gonna get rid of this shade. I forgot what the actual name is, but I love these two. These two I definitely want to keep in. I know this is Plantasia. This is my favorite shade in the palette, so I'm not shocked. And then this one is just really giving me smoky 90s silver taupey Alanis realness. And then I like this first one too because it has a bit of black in the base, and it still has that gold. But it's probably the one I would cut if I was wanting to cut one more and just have 2 of these. But I'm going to keep all 3 for now. And then let me also get a better handle on all these Viseart metallics I pulled. Even though I love this shade from Lila Doo, I just think if I have the Yucca one, I'm going to reach for it. And I also want to get use out of the Yucca one. So I think I'm going to set this one aside. I'm definitely going to keep this one. Like I said, this is one of my favorite shades of all time, probably in my collection. So I want to keep this one. What else? I think I'm going to... I like having the pop of teal, but it's just a little too Easter, I think, for what this color story is going to be. And then I love this shade. This is one of my favorites because it's like a dark forest green with lavender pearl in it. I just don't think it's going to be right for this palette. And then I think I'm going to keep these three around because I like this sort of... I think this could be a really cool inner corner highlight to play around. And it's adding that femininity that I think is so essential in Alanis's music. And then this one is also really pretty. It's like got that peachy warmth. I don't know if it's going to fit in super well with all these grungy tones, but I want to keep it around for now because I really like it and I like how it's swatched. So I'm going to keep these three, just like I kept three of the Yucca shades. Now I guess we'll just go through the ColourPop shades I pulled, or the ColourPop metallics. Okay, right off the bat, this one from ColourPop, if it swatched more brilliantly, I would want to keep it in, but it swatched a little bit more grape than I was expecting, and just pretty... There are some duds in the So Jaded palette, and I think this one's a dud, so gonna get rid of that. I'm gonna swatch the Natasha Denona Yucca taupey shade against... Yeah, this one's a lot more silver. This one's almost like... It's like a lot warmer quartzy taupey shade. I think I like the one from Yucca better, so I'm going to get rid of this one from So Jaded. I love this sheer Super Shock shade, and I'm going to keep that in. This one swatched even more black than it looks in the pan, and I love a very sparkly, satiny, glittery black. So, and I haven't played around with one in a really long time, so I really want to keep that in. I love how this bronze swatches. It's this really gorgeous neutral olivey bronze. It's really special. And I think I'm going to keep this green in for now too. This may get cut, but I like that it's a black-based green, and it's giving more what I want in terms of this type of shade than the one from my viseart. So I'm also going to keep this one in. Now, do I want to swatch all of the mattes? Maybe, let's do it how I divided it up. I'm going to swatch these more colorful ones first. This one's not really colorful, is it? I'm gonna swatch this. It's interesting. This shade from ColourPop looked so much more red in the context of limoncello, but now looks really peach compared to all of these. So I just want to swatch all of these, see what I'm feeling. So I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed to make decisions for these mattes. Whew, that is so peach. That's so... Color theory is wild. I don't know if that really helped. Automatically, I'm intrigued by the blues, even though it's the obvious route to go with Jagged Little Pill. I'm intrigued by these blues enough to keep them both. This is a matte with glitter in it, which I know a lot of people don't like. I don't really mind. I love this tone, and it's exactly the orchid I was thinking. Let me go ahead and swatch this viseart shade I pulled for maybe like more cool toned orchid. I mean, that's like 90s realness right there. That's got to go in this viseart shade. We're already going to put it in. We're also going to put this ColourPop one in. And then I also want to put Garnet in. A little bit more wine than I was thinking, but I still think it'll be pretty in looks, and I want that type of tone in there. I did not like how any of these swatched at all in the context of this palette. So I think these are going to go peach is too peach. The olive I just don't think fits. And the green, I just didn't like how it swatched. I'm really not sure about the Yucca matte, so y'all, on me at least. That looks so like, and I know I can build it up, like, let's give it a fair chance, but like, I'm sure you can build it up, but it just reminds me of when you got a green marker as a kid in elementary school, and you're like, and it's from like the big bag of markers, and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot that this one is the one that's like almost dried out, and there's like a fresh green out there, and you wish you got the fresh green. And I feel like I got the marker that was dried out with this shade from Natasha Denona. I have all these neutral mattes, which I'm gonna be reticent to cut because I think all of those are kind of going to be essential for this grungy palette. But let me swatch them against each other just to do it, and then we'll look at where we are in this palette. I'm getting pretty excited. This looks really pretty. I mean, it feels sort of silly to swatch these, but we're going to do it. So I got a white. What a fabulous tone from Colourpop. Gray and matte black. Okay. I mean, I love this shade. And then I do want a gray. And the thing is, I do have like a really sparkly black. So maybe I'll play around with that and I'll actually cut. It feels wrong to cut the matte black, but I kind of, let me swatch the Colourpop sparkly black metallic. Yeah, I kind of want to play around with that more. And I feel like if I have the matte black in, I'll be safe and go with that one, but this is a shade I really want to play around with. And I kind of want these looks. I actually wouldn't mind if this palette was more sparkle and satins, because I feel like Alanis's music, like I said, is really messy and earthy and kind of has that texture. Like, her music has so much texture. So I want this palette to have a lot of texture. So I think not having a matte black and challenging myself to use a more textural black, which will maybe make the looks a little bit more messy, but I think it'll make them also more dimensional and interesting. So I'm going to actually cut this, which is surprising. And I'm going to keep the white in for now, just because I want to see where we are. Again, I think I said 15 shades, and I'm just curious what this looks like. 15 shades, so we got to cut 3. What are some non-negotiables? Let's start there. This dark blue has to be in. I think this garnet has to be in. The gray, silvery black, ruddy bronze, sheer sparkle, this taupe, some viseart, red, blue, brown, Plantasia I think needs to be in. This orchid shade needs to be in. I kind of want this blue to be in. It's just really intriguing to me to have that in. It makes me excited for the color story. And then out of these, I think we gotta have the gray. I think this kind of needs to be in to help with the transition shade. The white, I think I want to be in. And then that means I need to cut 3 of these. How does that look? This I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of from Viseart. This green really... I don't think I need the green to be in. I don't think I need the green to be in. I like the blue direction and the cool, ruddy, earthy tones direction. And this palette also says really flavors of entanglement meets jagged little pill to me, which I love. And I think the green really changes the color story. I'm not sure for the better though. So I'm gonna take that out. Let me swatch all the mattes out real quick. I'm not loving those actually. The red is kind of throwing me off, I think. It's too wine stained. Let me swatch it against this one from the Colourpop palette. Ooh, look how orange that one looks. Whoa. Okay, that's not what I want either. That's a little too bright, I think, for this. It's throwing me off and I feel like it's not gonna get used if I put it in the palette because I'm not gonna know what to do with it. I think I am going to cut this garnet shade because it's just not working for me. Okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing now. These 2 rows make a lot of sense to me. Gosh, it's almost like this. It's almost like, should I cut even more? Because this definitely doesn't make sense to me. I really like this shade. It's like the black based sort of antique gold from the Yucca, but I don't think it's going to make sense in this palette. This shade from Colourpop, I want to keep in the sheer glitter. And then this ruddy bronze makes a lot of sense to me. Plantasia is a beautiful shade, but I don't know if it's working for me in the context of this palette. And this is standing out in not a great way. It's just too peachy, too pinky. It feels disruptive, but not in a brave or bold way, just in an annoying way. So I'm going to take this one out. And then we have a 13 pan, which is interesting. I feel like having the baby blue in there just gives it some excitement and kind of screams Alanis. I mean, this one's... gosh, that is really... Okay, let me swatch this before I say anything. And then let me swatch... I'm just gonna, I guess, do a big swatch party. Ooh, that one's more taupe. This one's got that special quality. Do I want Plantasia? Even though it's one of my favorite shades. I don't know if I would ever pick it to go with these shades. I'm gonna bring in a couple of shades that I cut. This goldy blackened shade and this viseart shade and also this Colourpop shade. I just want to swatch these three against what I'm seeing right now with my metallic glitter selections. No, I think I still want to cut the viseart one. I don't think. I think I'm right in that I'll reach for the Natasha Denona. These two work better for me than these two. These two that I just brought in, this is from the Colourpop palette, this is from the Yucca, are working better than these two, actually. I feel like this has kind of got this pinky, grungy ballet quality. And then this one has the yellow, but it really has that black grungy base. And those excite me more than these two in these palettes. Even though I would say I probably like these shades zooming out, just what singles I like, I probably would say I like these two better. I feel like these are kind of struggling in this palette for me. So we'll bring these in. Okay. Okay. This kind of says Alanis Morissette and what her music means to me. I kind of love it. I kind of love it. I'm going to go get an empty palette, going to put it in. I think I'm going to actually name the shades. I mean, obviously they have names from the palettes they're in, but I kind of want to name them after Alanis songs. So I'll be right back. Let's go ahead and swatch my Jagged Little palette, and I'll also tell you what the names of the shades are. Mary Jane, Everything, Perfect, Orchid, Under Rug Swept, Doth I Protest Too Much, Citizen of the Planet, Jagged Little Pill, Thank You, You Learn That I Would Be Good, So Unsexy, and Uninvited. And that is my Jagged Little palette. Alright y'all, thank you so much for watching this video, bearing with me while I cried, while I did something that I've never done before on camera. I had a lot more fun than I thought I was going to. Honestly, I've been pretty nervous to film this, and even though I wish I maybe still had more indie special shades, I am so excited to play around with this palette. I will try my best to post a reel on Instagram actually using this palette and sharing some of the looks I create. I am very excited to play around with it and see what I can create with it. I have really enjoyed doing this video. Thank you so much to my dear, dear, lovely, beautiful friend Ivy. I love her so much. I just adore the privilege of sharing space with her online, of sharing words with her through DMs. I am manifesting that we will meet next year. You know, Alanis is touring next year, Ivy. If you want to come to Atlanta, or I can come up to the Northeast and we can go see Alanis together if you want. I should maybe ask you that before I put in the video. But I'm just saying, like, let's hang out, Ivy. Are you interested? But no, I just adore her, and this collaboration has just been really special and obviously very emotional for me. So thank you all so much for watching. Again, give this video a like. It helps me a lot in the wild, wild west of the YouTube algorithm. Go watch Ivy's video. Comment below if you have any connection or love for Alanis Morissette. And just thank you so much for being here. Happy and Merry Clovemas. And happy, merry, whatever other holidays that you may or may not be celebrating. I hope you are finding peace during this somewhat difficult blue time of year. If you are feeling down, may I suggest building your own palette based on one of your favorite musical artists, because this has really cheered me up after, actually not a bad day at all, but just, I've been feeling a little blue, so this really was much needed. Thank you all so much again. Bye, y'all.